Welcome to How's It Going to End? This is episode, I think it's 9 or 10. I'm not exactly sure. And today I have Mike from the Nerdy Hub on Instagram, and we're going to talk every fucking spoiler possible for Zack Snyder's Justice League. So, spoiler warning, that goes without fucking saying.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen this movie yet, you're probably not going to then if you haven't seen it
yet.
Yeah. You know, if you've waited like 3 days when it comes to this, I know that it's a long one, but you can break it apart over 3 days. So let's start off with initial thoughts. Like first thoughts as soon as your first rewatch, because you and I have both seen it multiple times.
My first rewatch, or just like my first?
Your first viewing. What were your initial thoughts right out of it?
I was angry. I was angry because of how good this movie was, dude. I literally every moment in the film brought me. I'd say the last 20 minutes, my mouth was open, like it didn't close. But every moment in the film was joy. It was happiness. It was like wow. And then by the end of the movie, I legitimately was angry. Like that was my actual reaction because one, I'm thinking like 12 steps ahead. I'm thinking, how are we going to complete this? How is this going to, so in that sense, I was just angry that what happened to this man and what happened to this movie was just like put out there.
Yeah.
But that aside, I could not have, I was expecting, it exceeded my expectations.
Yeah.
Like by far. Because I was expecting, it's 4 hours and the base, the Whedon cut was 2. So I knew we were getting 2 hours more of substance. But just this changes my mind about comic book movies and how they maybe should be, how long they should be. Endgame kind of started it, but that didn't feel like 4 hours. Because we were, even though we saw Aquaman the movie, and we've seen these characters, they were explored in this movie in a different way, and so it was just refreshing. It was exhilarating. It was everything, man. I was angry. I was happy. It was everything.
I'd even argue that Snyder's Watchmen, the extended cut of that whole thing, being what almost it was more than 3 hours, wasn't it?
I think
it was up there.
The extended cut's around like Ultimate Edition, but it's longer.
Yeah, but that's like he's always been dipping into like the most excessive form of storytelling.
Yeah, I like it.
I love it.
And like if you go like to read a comic book and you're reading an arc, you're sitting there for a few hours, man. Like you're not just blowing through it in 2 hours. So I think I was reading an article, and this could kind of set like Endgame needed to be 3 hours because of how so much. And with Justice League, it's like I hope that we're gonna get. I know theatrically it's tough; you can't do 4 hours.
Yeah.
But I mean, like you need to. Everybody was focused on. Everybody in this movie had a point in time in the film had at least like 5 to 10 minutes of fleshed out backstory.
Yeah.
Whether it was like Steppenwolf, for example.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, it's not even.
It's night and day.
I touched on that in my review for a little bit, but like, he's got an actual personality, and he's got an actual history to the character alone. Yeah. So let's like, all right. Favorite moment of the movie that you can like, or at least top 3 right now that we can spoiler into.
Top 3 in no order.
Yeah.
Batman Joker scene.
Yeah.
Batman Joker scene is that I've had arguments with people. I'm not comparing the acting. You will not surpass Heath Ledger. It's that interrogation scene is great.
Yeah.
I personally think this scene with Batman and Joker was the greatest live action interaction between the characters I've seen. I think that people make fun of the dialogue. I don't know why. Some people say it's the worst scene in the film. That to me was pure comic book. Like I grew up just reading Batman. It wasn't until later that I started the MCU that I started to branch out. Yeah. That was what I would like feel would be like a pure comic booky dark Batman Joker interaction. And I would say the Flash scene, that use of time travel was mind blowing.
I'm gonna go in order. I'm gonna start with the Joker stuff because I agree. The dialogue of that scene alone, to the mannerisms of Jared Leto, like the way
And Leto said he improvised the reach around scene, and he told Zach,
yeah,
he's like, "That's not going to be in the movie. It's actually like you just watch." And
yeah.
I liked it because it was like Joker says some weird shit
He's,
like
I mean,
that, man.
especially this version of Joker, like
Yeah,
Leto's Joker is clearly more of he's more out there in the psychotic region. It's like
yeah. He's
he's
legitimately
less, yeah,
psychotic.
he's less of the
Yeah,
anarchist, he's less the funny guy, he's more the you expect to see him in an asylum. But
yeah,
what I
exactly.
love about that scene is he kind of carries the Joker like persona in that, calling
Yeah,
Mira a fish stick
yeah,
and telling him like, you won't kill me, I'm your best friend. And
yeah,
it captured the dynamic between, at least it captured a dynamic between this Batman and Joker really,
yeah,
really well, especially because we've been fucking starved to see these two on screen together. Meanwhile, they weren't like technically on screen together, they were filmed separately.
yeah. Which was beautiful.
Yeah,
I love the way it was. I mean, you're more into kind of photography than I am,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I love the way it was filmed. It was blurry, and then as soon as he says,
It was so hard to like follow because of how,
yeah,
and it's only as soon as Leto comes onto screen because everything else
because
is
it like represents like the
yeah.
Joker's kind of just, and when he finally says like, I'll discuss with you in any way you'd like, and it's still blurry, and then
Mm-hmm.
why would you send a boy wonder to do a man's job, and then it focuses on him, and it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
just
yeah.
like,
It was
even when
filmed really
Batman says
interesting.
he's gonna like, I'm gonna fucking kill you, there's this like 30-second like silence from the Joker,
Hmm.
and he's like shaking, and he's like, you almost had me there.
It's
Like,
good. It's also
I
good to
love
see.
that.
Yeah, it's good to see Batman get under his skin, just
Yes.
because it's so often the other way around all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, and what a great way to end the fucking, especially after like
Perfect.
the dark side bit, like Ready the Armada, and it's like, oh well,
Yeah.
now I'm looking forward to what's
Yeah.
coming, and then with this shit, now I really want some more. I
It's
really,
what you
really
would,
want.
it's what you would see in like an Elseworlds comic or like a
Yeah.
video game, is like he's teaming up with people, two people at least he would not agree with normally,
Hmm.
Joker and
Hmm.
Deathstroke.
Yeah.
I think that is the most interesting dynamic, is having to team up with the Joker,
Yeah.
because it's happened before, I think like one other time. But what I love what Zach was trying to do there, and I love that it wasn't even in the movie, but he said, you know what, if this is my last
Yeah.
DC film, I have to do this, and he delivered.
And you know what's also interesting about that is I don't think Ezra Miller was there.
Yeah, he looked pretty
It
strange
looked it looked
CGI.
it
Well,
looked
yeah,
it looked CG, like they
yeah.
tried to get the facial hair and he wasn't speaking. It was all pretty simple, but
The fact that
that was pieced together.
the lengths that Zach are going to, I don't think people appreciate. Like, they're making fun of him reusing shots. Like, dude, he's giving you content. Like,
Oh
what
yeah.
you like,
Well,
like,
that's a whole other like part of it is the guy was kind of fucking handicapped when it came to
yeah,
releasing this. I mean, yeah, he got the money to put it out. He wasn't getting paid for it. He willingly didn't want to get paid for it, so he didn't have another
yeah.
fucking set of eyes over his shoulder, which makes complete fucking sense. If you're gonna do 4 hours of 100% like something that's yours, you're not gonna want to have someone telling you to tweak this and tweak that. But
He didn't even
uh,
pay Leto or Affleck or Manganiello. Like,
yeah,
they
they,
just did
they
that
all came
for
in and
free.
just did it because it's him.
Yeah,
Which
I
is
love
like
that.
that's also a great thing, like especially in contrast to everything with Joss Whedon. You
Yeah,
have Ray Fisher, who's like publicly saying shit, and then you have people who are kind of like, I was there, I didn't experience it, I feel sorry for them, and then you have people not saying anything. So
yeah,
and then
yeah,
when you see that entire reaction in the other way, and it's like people, oh yeah, I spent a couple of weeks with Snyder reshooting scenes that that need to be in the movie.
yeah.
That was great.
No, it's great.
I also love the Harley Quinn line in there
Yeah,
because
every bit of that.
it adds a whole other sense of history to that nightmare
Yeah,
world too. So like,
it does.
I mean, assuming it's probably Margot Robbie,
Yeah.
and she's got that same like vitriol hatred for him in that
Yeah,
world
she would
too.
say that. That's
Yeah.
something she would say, is like, and I could see her saying it to Batman. Like, she's even if she knows Batman has a rule,
Yeah.
she knows like that'd be the one person that, and it starts to make you kind of wonder, who
Mhm.
killed her, how did she die,
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
what why did Harley die?
and
Like it
how
starts
it
to come up with
gets
all
to
these questions.
and
Yeah, like
how it gets to him so hard.
yeah, does it bother Joker? Is he just like surprised at the name drop? Does it
Yeah,
bother her that maybe Batman accidentally, like you never know, collateral
yeah,
damage? It's just
exactly.
like it makes you wonder.
Okay, so here's something that when it comes to the powers of Cyborg and Flash,
Yeah,
how much was cut from this movie that breaks down what they are able to do? Like, it's
so much.
unbelievable. I mean, like overall, when it comes to comparing, not even just comparing, like looking back and forth, just how much was cut in order to get the product of what we got in 2017 is unbelievable.
If you go back, Cyborg barely did anything in the theatrical cut.
Yeah,
Like he was just there. He was just the
he
guy that could do the mother box thingy
yeah.
and like
I don't
he did nothing.
even
This movie made me think, as of right now, he could possibly be the most important Justice League member
yeah, yeah. Well,
because of the where we are technology wise.
yeah, well, exactly. That entire scene. Well, there's more scenes with there's more of a relationship. His relationship with his father
It was great.
is so strung out in this one, and it's so not in the
Yeah,
first cut,
it's not at all.
which is it's the number one thing when it comes to his character is his resentment towards it's in like everything, the resentment he has towards his father, whether it comes to him not like being involved with his life because he's always at the lab, or because he like brought his son back to life with experimental technology. It's so
Well,
it
the
just
thing that
takes so
like
much away from it.
the thing that it was a sad moment, but I had a big smile on my face when he sees that his father's empty seat at the
Mhm.
football game. It made me just feel like Zach was really trying to give you a really good story, a cyborg
Yeah.
origin story, and that was like I think that was in the Justice League War animated movie too.
Hmm.
So like it just as someone who's a fan of this world, this universe, it was cool to see Zach utilize these characters. And whether you agree with like stuff like Barry Allen, it was cool to see him really deliver
Hmm.
and just give you in certain aspects that the side of that character that and you love. And like that, like seeing Victor Stone upset with his father in the car crash, and
Yeah.
you felt for this guy. Like it was a
and
night and day.
and leaving the film with Victor at his his grave and his mom's
Yeah,
grave, and then I think they ended up replacing the headstone with his dad's, but leaving there and then thinking about how he got to that point where he had it's actually crazy. His Silas sacrificing himself
yeah,
gave him the push he needed to be like, okay, I have a purpose right now. And then the recording that he
that was
puts
great. Yeah,
together gives him the closure he needed because he never got to say a goodbye. His dad just, which is such a Zack Snyder thing
and
to
they
watch the
and he used that as like the dialogue while they're all kind of doing their own thing versus
yeah
Lois Lane in Whedon's cut when
yeah
she
which
does like
is
the
yeah.
corny heroes rise and
What
like
really fucking sucks about that is I did this a couple times during my rewatch last night, looking at scenes on YouTube from 2017 and this. I didn't want to rewatch the whole movie and do any and like
yeah.
mark comparisons because strangely enough, a 2 hour movie, that 2 hour movie feels more exhausting than this 4 hour
It
movie.
does.
You know what I mean?
It just it's it literally needs to be off HBO Max as soon as Snyder's
Mhm.
Justice League is fully on there because that
And
is like embarrassing.
comparing the endings, like okay, so like for Flash and for Cyborg, the end of 2017, he's with his dad, and they're all happy, and he's got a new logo, like that's supposed to be
Yeah,
like he te- story wise he didn't really learn anything.
yeah.
uh Victor,
There
he
was no
didn't
development of his
there was no
character.
progression. He
It
kind of
was
just
yeah,
other than like he's got the whole new set of people who like don't make him feel like such a fucking freak for being a half
yeah.
robot, but there's not that developmental push in the
Just yeah.
2017.
There, like I said, there's nothing to his character other than just being the guy who's good with technology. There
Mhm.
was nothing deeper. Like I actually felt like he was important. He belonged. That because people always say, hey, he should be with the Titans. It should be John Stewart. It should be John Johns. But I felt like it felt like a comic like canon. Like he deserved to be there.
Yeah.
I think because Batman, I think at one point wanted him on the team because he knew how important he was. Like in comics, or I think it was like one of the animated films. But I love that he was respected. It was like like they trusted him, and he took initiative. Like, I'm going to do this. I'm the one that needs to do this. I think one of his lines was kind of even like, I have a purpose, or something along those lines. And he's the one who goes out on a limb and does it.
Yeah, and
total night and day difference.
And same with the Flash. So I specifically because watching the scene with his dad, both scenes with his dad the first time in this one, I was like, I don't remember. I haven't seen 2017 one in a maybe a couple of years, but I didn't remember them being as long as they were. So then I watched them back in that, and they're like at least like maybe like 50 seconds long.
Yeah.
Compared to like 3-4 minutes of dialogue between the two.
And it's important dialogue too.
It's significantly important. Audio cut there?
Yeah. Oh, you're good. I heard you. Yeah, you're good.
Okay, good. So I actually wrote down here how his convo with his dad in 2017 is lifeless and so like strung together compared to this one. Like in the first part.
Yeah.
It's so cut together, and and watching it back now, you can hear the audio being dubbed in of specific lines that they wanted to go with or whatever. And even aesthetically, like the something about raising the color palette with that blue like shade over everything in the entire movie really makes everything seem kind of gummy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then watching this end scene and watching Henry like cry and scream and cheer.
Yeah, and it was a totally different scene too, man.
That line, he got his foot in the door. I taught him nothing he knows, or something like that.
Yeah,
that was so good. That seemed so genuine, and like Billy Crudup is such a fucking great actor, man.
He's so good, and I'm so disappointed that he's not going to come back. I don't know if you can really replace him right now, but I mean there could be. But yeah, it was like just little. Everything with Flash was just improved on every level. The humor was natural stuff, like when he comes in the Batcave, like it's like a cave, a bat cave, like that was
what's
gone.
Interesting
and
also
was
about
like,
it was a lot of his awkward rants or whatever in 2017 were kind of meant to almost like push the clock of the movie.
Yeah.
Like Warner Brothers 100% said we need this to hit the 2-hour mark exactly, basically.
Yeah.
Which I think it's like seconds short. I'm not exactly sure. I think it's right under the 2-hour mark. But a lot of it, like the brunch conversation, and it's not even. I hate that I call it
such useless. There's no substance to anything.
It's all fucking filler. It's all just all right.
It's fluff.
56, 57. It's just trying to push everything forward.
It reminds me of like Drax with the invisible thing. Like that whole scene could have just been not there.
Oh my god, that's so much of that fucking sense of humor is like, or Drax asking Ego, did you make a penis? And then it's like 30 seconds.
It's just time.
Why did you make a penis? Oh, it's fucking ridiculous. Yeah. So, but in this one, the humor is all character related.
Yes.
Grabbing the hot dog. When I saw him go from Iris beautifully to like the fucking hot dog, and then landing back into with the dogs. Which is like, that's exactly what you would do to completely thwart any suspicion. That was just so well done.
It bothered me that people made fun of that scene, but they'll praise the 2 Quicksilver scenes where he's the same way in the Fox films, where he's doing goofy shit while he's being like. I'm seeing people make weird critiques of like that moment, saying it's weird, dude. He saw a beautiful girl. I don't know. I don't know. Saying like,
here's the only way I think the way I think about that is it comes down to the character. People have known the Flash more, and until when did Days of Future Past come out? Was that 2014?
I think so.
Or earlier.
Yeah, I think so.
No one had ever fucking heard of Quicksilver.
Yeah.
So you could have made the character at that point and whatever you wanted, and then
That's what someone was saying in comparison to this, is that people know Batman and Superman so much that when BVS came out, everyone had this idea of what these characters should be. Fair enough, but with the MCU films, a lot of people weren't familiar with Iron Man. We knew the name Captain America. They knew the name Hulk. You knew Hulk's. I mean, you can't really mess that up, but they did. And so it's like, it just seems like people just don't. I don't know, man. They're just not accepting of different takes. And it shows with this movie, because I feel like you reacted so harshly to BVS, okay, but then Zach gives you this movie. There's a good amount of humor in it. There's like stuff like Zach's humor to me is similar to like Nolan's humor, where it could be very subtle, but it could be like when he goes, "Hey everyone, this is Alfred. I work for him." Like that's good.
And that's
good.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
little,
exactly. That's also 100% has to do with the relationship between Ben Affleck's Batman and Jeremy Irons' it was Alfred. It's so
organic.
It's so father son like.
Yeah,
It's very much like you can tell that the two of them have been doing this for so long, to the point where it's they got a great dynamic there. But what were we just saying before?
The Flash and Barry Allen.
Oh yeah. Well, his sense of humor with in this one, it's a different kind of story. In BVS, he's telling a division story, and in this one, he's telling a uniting story. And with the uniting story, you get to get all these different characters and these different personalities in there,
And Batman was much different. This movie showed to me what Ben Affleck could do as like my Batman, without the killing and all of that. And the dynamic between him and Alfred was beautiful. I mean, every scene, when he gets off the plane after the helicopter after visiting Aquaman, and he's like, can't we maybe there's a metahuman in Fiji or something, like Alfred complaining about the weather. It was banter that you love to see, that it goes on between them. And the fact that some of this stuff was taken out and replaced with what it was, to me, is either just sabotage, intentional sabotage, or I don't know.
What's interesting is I don't even think. It's funny because Zack Snyder, as a filmmaker, is a very special case when it comes to like studio stuff and all that. I don't think most of it was intentional. What I think it was is a bunch the people that made decisions were like, how are we going to get the best return on this investment? And they thought, well, these movies are popular, and they pointed to a formula that they didn't know how to make, that they didn't know how to use when it comes to. I mean, like the Marvel movies, they have that shit locked down to the every ingredient. If you fuck up on it one piece, you're not going to get the $1 billion you're hoping for.
Because it works for them because of how established it is, and whether the jokes are like good or not, they know how to deliver it and not make it seem so obviously. Like sometimes it's like they're forcing it, like Ragnarok and stuff. But what we didn't, it like you said, it does seem like they tried to just MCU-ify the Justice League film, but by doing that, they went overboard.
And you can do that, but you have to start from fucking scratch.
Well, I think if you look at Zack's Justice League, it feels like a darker MCU film that's just rated R. And that's not an insult. It's a comment. It feels like a Winter Soldier, Infinity War, but with Zack's imprint on it. It has its moments of humor, it has its darkness, and I love the rated, and what Zach said with the rating. He's like, I wanted to show what gods would be like in battle, like what a warrior would be like, and PG-13 limits what he's swinging that axe like
you can't show the kind of violence in this, and then I mean, even down to like something that I feel like we've never seen the result of. The parademons actually cause some damage. We see like the result of their the nameless faceless rays they shoot, and it looks like it's like, oh well, they're instantly more threatening than
they were. Scary when they're carrying the Atlanteans out of the water. I was like, yo, these guys mean business. Like they're not just some slaves. Like and then it seemed like they had a personality of their own in a way. Like it wasn't fear. It wasn't. They were just servants of Darkseid. When they're bowing and he comes, like it just shows this is his army. This is his.
The level of violence is just enough to where it's not excessive.
Yeah, it's
When
not
Steppenwolf
300.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean,
You know,
that's where you can see kind of the spectrum between, like, when Steppenwolf flings that Elenian and he hits the rock, and then you just see
the
like
blood.
the blood smear, or even
Yeah,
like Diana in the fighting the terrorists, like she throws motherfuckers at the wall, and you
yeah.
see like an interesting, realistic impact to that.
Which, by the way, everyone, she has no kill rule. Batman is pretty much the only one who really comes out vocally about that. So I know
Yeah,
people were mad about the whole Wonder Woman thing and
yeah,
how she blows the guy up, and then, like, come on, guys,
yeah.
she's a warrior,
That's a
dude.
whole other thing. I actually wrote that down. The fact that she disintegrated him. I didn't.
Yeah,
What happened in the first one? I can't remember. I haven't
she
seen in so long.
she does the explosion, but he's okay.
He just gets knocked out.
He just, I think, I don't know, like, there's a big
That's so
explosion,
funny.
and I
She
I don't
disintegrates
know.
him
Yeah,
in
she
this one, which
completely
is
disintegrates him.
which is like, hey, you know what? It's what you get.
Well, it's like what Zach said, man. Like, when he said kind of wake the fuck up, it was like, in reality, some of the stuff is gonna happen, man. I mean, you can do that with and get away with.
Yeah.
Marvel's dark too. People get it twisted because of the MCU that Marvel's got some dark stories, and
Yeah.
Iron Man doesn't have a no kill rule. Like, all these guys are killing too.
Yeah.
It's just it seems like the tone of the movie just changes people's perspective, because the MCU heroes kill, but you don't say anything about that.
Oh yeah, and it's like almost like pickup basketball. Like the entire intro to Age of Ultron is just laying motherfuckers down.
Oh yeah, like Wonder Woman is the greatest fighter arguably in DC. She's a warrior. You're not gonna let up on people, man. You're swinging a sword, like a gigantic sword around. How do you let up on people?
And
like, that's simple.
What's interesting is you can kind of see with a character like Wonder Woman, there are lanes you can go down. You can go down like in some iteration, she becomes like a peaceful, like, aristocrat. She goes around talking it like in ceremonies, and it's all about love and all. And then there are iterations where she's more brutal and she's more realistic. And it's like, the reason why my villains never come back is because I don't let them come back and stuff like that.
Yeah. No, I agree. And there doesn't need to be a disconnect where she could be this optimistic, hopeful, peaceful person, kind of trying to get everyone united. That doesn't mean she can't go out and start causing havoc. It seems like people seem to just have this, there needs to be one identity. You're either good or you're a little brutal, and that's not how it is, man. There's not, the line's not straight like that. Especially in DC. It works because they're gods. They're gods amongst men. She's fighting a bunch of men. What's gonna happen?
Yeah. That's that's one of the things that I was a little confused by. There was a small group of whatever terrorists. Their plan was to blow up 4 city blocks. And I have it. Hold on, right here. Down with the modern world, back to the dark ages. It's not enough.
Yeah, it's not enough. Unless there was more of them that I guess they were going to commit suicide, though. It seemed like that was the objective, was the comic,
but I feel like in a world where, I mean, Christ, the Dark Ages would be like Metropolis after Man of Steel.
Yeah, it would be like Darkseid. Darkseid would be the Dark Ages. He's completely obliterating the earth.
I just thought that was one of the things I was like, all right, this is, when she goes, when he starts talking about, like, we have a division, and she's like, boring, next. Like, that's how I felt about that bit. I was like, all right. I liked seeing her
be real, like real.
Yeah, the representation. I like seeing the representation of her powers, the way she kind of thinks through everything, and you can see her thoughts going in super speed. So that's why she's able to stop every bullet and catch every bullet.
Yeah.
But that was fine. And that felt kind of the same. I have the fact that Bruce Wayne is Batman alone is in the first 10-15 minutes infinitely more badass than he was in 2017.
Yeah, I think also the score, Junkie XL, when he's on the mountains and it's just this beautiful cinematography of that score. I'm sorry, man. Like, I mean, I'm not gonna say it's better than, but that Batman score is
Yeah.
is up there. That is phenomenal, and he is just like you said. Even the scene with Arthur when he's just Bruce Wayne,
See, that's the
he
thing.
just
Yeah.
he feels better. He feels better.
Including lines like, he said he climbed over the mountain. That's impossible.
That's
It's like, it's
impossible.
because he's
Yeah,
fucking
because he's
Batman. That's why.
Batman. Yeah,
And
yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't, and him knowing, it's funny how many times can you make that joke where he speaks a language people don't think he speaks that language?
That's a great moment.
Make it as many times as you can, because
Yeah,
I guess when rewriting the fucking scene for 2017, they're like, oh, they already did it in BVS with the Russian. We won't do it for
yeah.
this one. But what you do in effect, like, you make him look like a fucking doofus.
It makes it better because it's a language you'd have to like you shouldn't know.
Yeah.
Being that far away from where they were, and I liked it much better, obviously, in this one because it angered him, and he throws him against the wall, and then he pulls out the cash and he smirks like, "Come on,
not including that dumbs him down as a character. It's like no wonder people didn't feel his presence in 2017.
Yeah.
This one
and the whole I heard you could talk to fish. Thank God that was cut because it just was unnecessary.
So, like,
it's like why? And it wasn't even like that funny.
You know what that is?
Add it in there.
That's trailer humor. You need that. You need that line after a burst of noise in a trailer.
100%.
Silence. That line, and then it continues.
That's a good point. It's a great trailer moment, but it's not like it serves no purpose in the film itself.
Yeah.
I like how he takes him seriously. Like, you're the protector of the oceans, and
exactly.
Not you talk to fish.
Yeah, I have here a list of times the song that was playing over a scene audibly described the visuals of the scene. I have 3 marks of this list. Number 1 is Lois looking at Superman's monument, and the song playing and the lyrics playing in the background. They told us our gods would outlive us, but they lied.
Yeah,
which is like, all right, a little on the nose.
Yeah.
Number 2, Aquaman, after he saves the guy in the boat, and it's there is a kingdom, and it's like, all right, we get it, please.
Yeah.
And then the third one is when Barry is saving Iris, and this is also just a very Zack Snyder thing. It's very stylistic.
Yes.
When when he's saving Iris, it's like, here I am waiting to hold you. It's so.
Those are probably my only legitimate complaints, but they're not like me out of the moment. I'm just like, okay,
what
it's a little.
What sucks about it is because it's the least subtle kind of storytelling. Yeah. And then if you look at the first 9 minutes or 8 minutes of the movie, it's all visual storytelling, no dialogue, no nothing. You follow the camera and you piece it all together yourself,
Yeah.
So it's not like he doesn't. The guy. It's not like he doesn't know how to tell a story without going like, this is what's happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's an unapologetic Zack Snyder film. I think if you're a Zack Snyder,
that's what it is. That's 100%. You know what's funny is, like, even if you were given like free reign to make 100% of what you wanted, especially after like being denied something like this. Yeah, you go fucking balls to the wall,
and you get to go as long as you want. For he probably would have done even longer. I think he said he had one cut that was almost 5.
Which is fucking crazy.
Which is insane. Like, but that was my only those are my only nitpicks were the choices. But when you, like you said, he's the storytelling is a certain way with him that he's doing it visually and audibly, but without dialogue. It's just score.
It's all visual storytelling. Yeah, it's all, you can piece it together yourself. I have here the Amazonian keep away is one of the top 3 best sequences in the entire movie.
I agree completely, and I think they were taken much more seriously. Like, Amazon, show him your fear. We have no fear.
Yeah, why would you?
That was
that's
amazing.
Like 3-4 seconds. Why would you move that? Why would you take that out of the movie?
And it sets the tone for, like, there's something about blood splatter and just showing graphic violence that lets you know, okay, the stakes are high. Like, I was watching this movie knowing most everyone's gonna really live. Watching it and actually feeling anxiety, like, what's gonna happen? Is he? Because knowing Zach, he could have fucking had Batman kill Joker in that moment. Yeah, in the older scene. So but it's like
that comes with the whole like idea of Well, it also comes with a rated R. Everything can be
Yeah.
as threatening as it wants to be.
Yeah,
You know.
it felt like genuinely like I was like, not to be, overreacting, it's more hyperbole, but I was like, I feared for these characters. I was like,
Mhm.
this is actually some real shit.
The
And that was
Amazonians. Yeah.
the Amazonians. I felt like that was it for the most part. I mean, I didn't know
Yeah.
there were that many, like, still kind of roaming around, but when that dome went down
Yeah.
and everyone there pretty much was dead.
Yeah. But
And then
like
she,
that adds that entire sequence adds so much to the characters of that.
yeah.
Like it adds to the whole idea of
Hippolyta, it adds to
yeah.
Hippolyta a little bit more of like what she's willing to
But like
do. And
what they're all willing to do is like
yeah,
seal themselves in with this monster
yeah,
and die with it. And then there's the
yeah,
whole like they're willing to do anything for the goal. So when it
yeah.
comes to keeping the shooting the mother box away in an arrow and willing to be like, all right, this is where I die, and then you
Yeah,
still
that's where I
do the
die.
thing you have to do.
It's a great representation of the Amazons, and it shows not only what Steppenwolf is capable of,
Well,
but
that's a whole
B,
other.
like that shows, because that was a
Exactly.
much better. But when he's just
See,
like shoulder charging
that's the
horses,
best
bro.
part is like, why would you? They complement each other so well. You have this more intimidating version. You good? You
Yeah,
have
we're
this
good.
more. You have this more intimidating version of this villain who looks more intimidating significantly, and
Way more.
he's got a personality. He's got
And did
like
you
this.
notice the purple and the green tints?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Zach still brought it to the
armor,
fans that want to
the
complain.
armor, the way the armor was
Like
alive and moved around. Yeah,
it was the classic colors, and people complained
yeah.
he was just so like, no, there was purple and green if you watch the movie, man.
But having him show up and having him be so ruthless, and then having the Amazons be an equal amount of ruthless, and then having him be even more showing up, and yeah, throwing horses around
Effortlessly,
and swinging them around and then cutting them, and you're seeing blood splatter,
blood
and
splatter,
it
like
instantly raises the stakes. Not in like even if the end result of like a superhero movie is like it's the end of the world, something about making it more intimate like that, like seeing a swipe of something and then blood fly out.
Yeah, well, even little things like when he's got all the arrows in him, and it shows how primitive they are, and he just kind of flexes and they just all snap. It was just like, you're not beating this guy.
Yeah,
that's it. And there was a certain level, because there was still some of the dialogue when he in a 2017 cut, Hippolyta shoots an arrow and he flicks it, but in this one he catches it and he snaps it. But the dialogue, everything chosen in this movie over Whedon's makes everyone more intimidating. And Steppenwolf, I felt for Steppenwolf in a way that the MCU tries to make you feel for their characters by making them feel like I felt for Steppenwolf, and I can't relate to that. I can't relate to having to serve 50,000 worlds and shit like that.
But the entire concept of like trying to redeem yourself.
And like you relate to that. Yeah.
A character like Steppenwolf for the movie didn't necessarily even need that. He kind of just had to be. He could have just shown up and been like, oh, this is something I have to do for Darkseid, and we would have been fine. How often in comic book movies are the big monster villain given any depth? But then you see how desperate this guy is, and you see, and they have close-ups of his eyes and shit, and it's like, oh my god.
He's sad, man. He's like, damn. when Desaad says you still owe him 50,000 worlds, he's like, bruh.
Yeah, I was like, are you kidding me? Imagine that kind of fucking debt. That's.
But it also, it's similar to what Infinity War, how that was Thanos' movie, and how that kind of lets Endgame be the hero's focus of the film. This allowed you to have stakes and investment in every single character, whether it was the heroes or the villains. I was just as invested in Steppenwolf as I was with Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Cyborg, and I think that's brilliant. To you understand where he's coming from and what his job and what his responsibility is, as well as like my watching it for the third time, I was kind of rooting for Steppenwolf for like a little bit.
There are a couple scenes where I'm like, that's some, even though it's not actual acting, it's just all voice basically. I'm like, that's some good fucking acting.
Syrian, I don't know how to say his name. You probably wouldn't know how to say it.
I just say Syrian.
Syrian Hans.
I don't know. There's an accent mark. I don't know where.
Yeah. He was great.
Yeah.
He was great.
They manipulated the voice more, but like there's something. Even when he was on Game of Thrones, it was like there's a gravelness to his voice that it did not fit the 2017 model.
No, not at all.
So funny how like
it because it was like more of his voice. It was more of just his voice.
Imagine,
there was
like,
no like modulator.
Imagine willingly remodeling something and making it. There had to be people like working on it, being like, "What are we doing? Why are we doing this? We're making it worse." Like, and
well, there was that one executive that came out and said, "We knew." Yeah,
I'm talking about like
that.
like the actual like CG artists working on it, being like, this is my only job. This is my only source of income. I'm gonna do what the fucking big guys tell me. But then those assholes coming out in the end after greenlighting everything and typically and stringing everybody else up by the neck who doesn't like, especially when it comes to Snyder and how they limited him, and then when it comes to Whedon, they're like, yeah, no one wanted to tell him it was a piece of shit. I was like, so what? Did everybody take the day off? I don't.
Yeah, like you have the money, you pay the man, you pay everyone to do their jobs. You couldn't come in and say, yo, can we wait a little bit because this came out in what, 2017? It was a year after BVS. You couldn't postpone it a little bit.
Well, that was a whole other level to it. Is Snyder purposely chose
to bow out? Yeah.
No, well, yeah, he chose to bow out, but he chose the release date of it was November or something, and it turned out to be the exact date that the animated series had released.
Oh, okay.
Which is like a Zack Snyder thing, 100%. It was something he would want to do.
Totally
and then he bows out in I think July when he did it, and any normal situation would have pushed the shoot forward.
Yeah.
Any other normal production where like the
studio, any normal studio
where the filmmaker was respected to be like, all right, the problem is like you have these guys being like, all right, listen, these executives being like, listen, is it worth waiting for this guy to go through what he has to go through and then possibly not get the monetary value that we require afterwards?
Yeah.
Which is like,
and we weren't probably even going to get this movie because Zach was basically like, yeah, they told me it was 2 hours. So Zach went and continued shooting his longer takes. And then the studio came, when the studio was reviewing it, they were like, hey, why are you doing all this stuff? We said 2 hours. And he was like, you were serious? Like you want this? So technically we would not have even seen this beautiful film if it's kind of tragic, because it's like, if he would have stayed, we might have had another, bad Rotten Tomatoes score type of situation again, because it wasn't his full vision. This was his full vision. Yes. Could this been 3:30, 3 hours, 30 minutes? Yeah. He could have cut some down, but
I genuinely think that if you trim down, well, that's also like, it's funny. It's all like a lot of Snyder staples, the excessive slow-mo.
Yeah.
Way too many times where it's like, and that's it. And it's like, all right, move on. Let's go. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
You can have I'm all for when a director makes something 100%, like, especially this guy had the fucking free pass to do anything he wanted for 4 hours straight.
And even if he didn't, he was gonna, because they said don't do Green Lantern. He did it anyway. He shot in his fucking backyard, but they didn't use it. But like, it's like you said, like, I didn't mind the way I look at his slow motion in a comic book movie sense is it represents like almost a comic panel.
Well, that's
because of how slow it is,
Yeah, 100%. That's a whole. There are so many. I think that genuinely almost every frame, or near every frame of this movie, you could screenshot and it'd be like a solid wallpaper.
Yeah.
It'd be like a fantastic wallpaper, almost from the beginning to the end of this, right down to the reused shot from BVS. Like,
yeah,
but that adds to a whole other. I mean, there are a couple other things of like, Snyder being excessively Snyder is he's big on. I mean, the guy, we didn't know this. The guy's big on mythologies and introducing other cultures. So
symbolism.
Like, there was like a minute and a half of just the Icelandic song after Aquaman left.
Yeah, that was
like,
too much. Yeah,
Snyder,
I was like,
I love you, but Jesus Christ.
yeah, because I knew watching it, I'm like, this is gonna get picked apart.
Yeah,
This is done.
100%.
Forget
And I'm
it.
watching, I'm
It's
like, you know what? I respect it
yeah,
100%. But fuck, just keep moving. Just keep
yeah,
moving and because what I see when that stuff that kind of happens is it doesn't necessarily expand the plot, which is what they
yeah,
say.
nothing.
They say that most of whatever you have on screen for like a 2.5 hour movie, whatever, if it doesn't expand, if it doesn't progress stuff forward, then cut it. But in a situation like this, you get to expand in a narrative sense, in a historical sense, rather
Well,
than
that's
a
what.
plot
Yeah,
sense.
that's what it seems like with Zach with this movie is he didn't fuck with that. He didn't say, you know what, I'm trying to get through. He said, I'm
Yeah,
gonna live in the moment because you know
yeah.
what, this may be his last hurrah. He wants to just go
You know
balls to the
what?
wall.
When it comes to comic book movies with him, I mean, who knows what other lanes he'll work through. I mean, Netflix is giving him free reign to do whatever, and he seems like he's going to be doing a lot more non-uniform stuff. Like he's doing an anime prequel series for
Yeah,
Army of the Dead, which
Army of
is
the Dead could be interesting as hell, man.
it
Like
looks
that
fucking
could be.
incredible.
Yeah,
I love his zombie feel.
I,
I love
yeah,
his zombie feel because it's so fucking like full of anarchy
yeah.
and a weird like sense of humor to it that's like so
Dawn of the Dead was such a
it's such a
perfect
gluttonous
like.
sense of humor. It's very much like
Yeah,
if this were any other situation, I'd be grossed out, but not because of the content, because of the what's the word, the atmosphere, you know.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So when it comes to a movie like this one, and he keeps saying, never say never, whatever. And then I think of like that, faith, Alfred, faith, and I'm like, I love to have
Great
faith.
line. Yeah,
It's so good. And you know what I also love about that most is there's something very interesting about turning Bruce into a believer,
yeah.
especially after what we saw in BVS. He has this like reawakening of like, you know what, there is something more to believe in, and if I don't put myself to the task of that, what am I doing here?
Well, it felt the development felt more organic in this one because in Whedon's cut he was just a new guy. In this one, it doesn't kind of it gives you more of a reason to believe. Okay, he has changed his mind. There's a conversation he has that was cut with Alfred where he's like, you've done all these things, you've brought the team together, you've done your job, but to do this, and he's like, if you can't something about the bull don't wave the red cape at it,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like,
Mm-hmm.
you do, when because this cape puncher pushes back or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah,
and he's
yeah.
like, and he said to Alfred, for the first time, I'm just operating on faith. I'm not thinking, I'm just going off faith.
And it's just a very interesting way, especially, I mean, also it's no like secret the amount of religious allegory when it comes to Snyder's movies, but it's very interesting to
Yeah,
see his take on Batman go about that uh uh like mental direction.
yeah. I
So
find I find his Batman and Batmen that act like Affleck's as compelling as the one who has the perfect no kill rule, who's
mhm,
flawless. Like, I
yeah,
find them both compelling because he's not just the Punisher. He would be the Punisher on steroids. Like,
yeah,
if Batman just lost it one day and decided he could, you see in stuff like Justice League Doom animated film, like what the knowledge he has on every league member, what would happen if that got leaked and stuff. So
yeah,
I find it compelling, and I find the journey, like, yes, we can't do Under the Red Hood, we can't do all that, blah blah blah. But I find that journey he went through compelling, and Zach wanted to show us what happened, with
yeah.
Robin and everything. So, but I find that compelling because I find it hard to believe that there's people out there that are this perfect. It's like with his Superman, he
Yeah.
didn't just like it's a little unbelievable. Yes, I know we're in a world with superpowers, but it's a little unbelievable that this guy just is born a great human being. He has to have gone through this bullshit he went through in Man of
Mhm.
Steel and BVS and being under the anti-life equation and then becoming the Superman we know. I like being taken through these journeys.
Yeah.
I think it's very interesting.
And to branch from that, one thing that I found uh, really cool, but simply because of how kind of mulled over it is the concept of the multiverse. It's a thing.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
He established it right
It's
away.
a thing, and it's not only a thing. It's accessible.
Yeah.
When it comes to Ezra Miller's Flash, we've seen him interact with Grant Gustin's Flash.
Yeah.
That has to be further. We'll see, because with however Andy Muschietti's solo film is looking, it seems like that's going to expand a lot more of it, and maybe we'll get some hint of his interaction with Grant in that. You think?
That's tough because I know they brought in Greg Berlanti, if that's how you say his name, from the CW to kind of structure this new DCEU we have. Mm-hmm. So I can see them doing that. What I don't think it's, because I'm hearing reports that they're trying to remove all association with Flashpoint with this film. It's not going to be what we think it's going to be. So honestly, I could see them doing that. What I'm more concerned and confused by is like Supergirl and is this a setup for future installments, or is she just going to appear? Affleck, is this going to be a swan song? Is this going to be what canon is he going to be in? Is this going to be like post Zack's because it changes everything. The ending of Zack's Justice League has much more of a hopeful, bleak ending versus 2017 is just pure hopeful.
Yeah. And so it's
this one's like, it's hopeful, but we got this looming threat.
And to see what's going to be interesting is to see Snyder's Batman. And it's weird to say Snyder's Batman because at some point he is just whoever's he's going to be the first Batman, I think, first actor to play Batman in like multiple
films.
Not only multiple films, but multiple continuities, I think, right? Because they're saying they're saying hands down that 2017's Justice League is the continuity.
Yeah, that's what they're saying, which is
it's like,
it makes sense in Shazam because he shows up with the red and blue suit.
Yeah.
There's easy ways to retcon these things because the MCU did it. Oh yeah, that kid, that's Spider-Man. That kid in Iron Man fucking 2. That's like there's easy ways to do this, but it's going to be. I'm interested to see Keaton because that's what I'm most concerned about. What the fuck is Keaton going to look like? Yeah. What's he going to be like? Is this going to be a old Batman?
Well, here's why I'm not as bothered by the idea that 2017 will be the continuities, because it's not if it was the last of something, then I understand.
Yeah.
If it was in the case of this movie, of Zack's Justice League being, for the time being, because who knows how it'll be in 3 years. I made this joke 3 years ago. If you told me that we'd all be talking about this movie now, I wouldn't fucking believe you. Yeah. So who knows? Who genuinely knows what moves will be made within the next 6 months to fucking 3 years of all right, here's this chunk of cash, tell the next chapter of whatever story you want. HBO Max will front all of it, that whole idea.
Well, that's where the multiverse comes into play, because you can
exactly.
The problem is the actors. Yeah. Well, the actors want to do a series or a movie on a streaming service. I think Gal, Momoa, yes. Ray, yes. Ezra, yes. Ben, if he came back for Flash, I don't think because people try to associate Batman with his alcohol addiction. Don't do that. Because that's not fucking cool. He's cool with playing Batman.
They dipped even more into it in the 2017 cut, which is
they fucking had the dude drinking. Wakes up in after the nightmare, no woman next to his bed, no alcohol, him by himself, and it was him on it.
And also, they clearly filmed after the nightmare, way after he kind of
he has no muscle almost.
He's got not only that, he's got no he's not as bloated. You can see he's got he's just got less fucking skin tissue. He actually
just looks 2017 he was really
they said because during the reshoots he said it himself, he got heavy back into alcohol again, you can see it. He looks not as fucking.
He looks great.
Yeah.
Looks great now. Looks
Oh, he
great
looks now.
now.
I'm talking in 2017.
Oh yeah, no, that he was
2017.
terrible.
It looks unhealthy. And what better fucking metaphor for the patching over of that movie than him looking like he's going through some shit while being forced to speed up and remake the rest of this fucking movie.
Yeah. I think he looked good. I know the suit, was he was a little too thin to kind of fill in the cheekbone area of the cowl.
Yeah.
But I think he looked great. I think he would be down. I think the only person, honestly, would be Henry, because he's got his own little projects coming out. I think Henry would be because Henry clearly has a different vision for Superman. From what the interviews I've heard, Henry wants traditional Superman, and Zach is building up to it. So my only issue, because I don't want an animated, as cool as it would be, an animated movie in a comic, but I don't know how you can see that moment where Wonder Woman chops Steppenwolf's head off and it lands on Darkseid's feet. He stomps on it, says, "Get the Armada," and then you see that and think, "Now we won't continue this."
Well, the only hope of something like that is the people that make the decisions, the people that hold all the money go, "Oh, we'll make a lot more money if we do this," because it's also at this point where it's like you can't be confused as an executive anymore. You're not going to be like,
no.
With all the backlash of the last 3.5 years, and all the public vocal outcry of the idea of you don't have to make something, at least this is the perfect example. You don't have to make something like something else for it to get views, for it to get eyes on it, for it to make money. This is the proof of that. So that conversation of, if we give him a ton of money, it will garner success. Whether it's good or bad, or it's shit or it's great, it is the next step into something a lot of people are anticipating.
And a lot of people watch this, even if they watched it on Flickster or some site that they didn't pay. People wanted to see. You want to see why Justice League didn't make that much, because that just had horrible work. Even BVS, with its huge drop, made over $800 million. This is where you make your money as DC. Because as much as I love The Rock and James Gunn, you're not going to make $1 billion with any of these films, I think. So and you never know what's going to happen with the pandemic too, dude.
That's what they're trying to do with The Rock and with
that's not $1 billion movie. That's not. That's not.
You know what?
Come on, I love it. I love The Rock, man. I grew up. You were like me.
No. I get it. Yeah. That's the thing is the thought process of that is 100%. People like The Rock. People will pay for The Rock.
No.
The only saving grace for that as a fan is how much of a fan he is of the character. If he
That's what I've been loving about it. Yeah.
There's nothing more fucking heartless than seeing someone just in it for the fucking payday. And it's like, I get it. Not everyone can be as fucking, enveloped in the atmosphere of this stuff, but there's nothing better than when you get someone who is like, the thing about this character, hearing The Rock talk about the history of Black Adam, or hearing Ezra Miller go into the science of Barry Allen, being like, "Oh he can't touch anything normally because if he does, it'll rip to shreds." Like the way he was moving down Iris onto the ground, slowly guiding her. If he does anything direct,
when his shoes explode,
the shoes exploded into minuscule
nothing.
threads.
It was Dr. Manhattan. It was just, and there was another one. I don't mean to cut you off, but I was watching a stream on Twitch yesterday, and Joe Manganiello, you probably haven't heard this yet. He was talking about his prep for Deathstroke. This dude was talking to multiple martial artists. He was talking to people learning fighting techniques that if you went into a bar and used it, you'd take someone's head off. Yeah. He was even going to the point where he was talking to people to see what a fighter's stance would be if he was missing an eye, because your peripherals were different. Your peripherals were different. He was going to that.
All that.
Yeah. He was. That is stuff I like to see. That's a fan of that. Needs to happen too. I mean, shit.
dude. When you hear him talk about, how like concepts of the character, he talked with Zach about how he didn't want his Deathstroke to be a super soldier Deathstroke.
Yeah, he wanted to
it
be
to be
human.
a perfect mirror to Batman, just
Yeah,
fucking evil and for the money, which is
yeah,
such a
they,
great
yeah,
concept because then if you in another world where you have that battle between the two, you have a perfect pitting against each
yeah,
other.
yeah. And speaking of that, and just that scene on the boat, it's just a testament to Zach that, and just such a negative with Joss is that every scene, it may have been the same scene, but there may be one line of dialogue that's different that completely changes your perception of that scene.
Yeah.
And while it was cool that we got the 2017 post-credit scene, shouldn't we have a league of our own? That scene in Zach's Justice League was way better.
Yeah.
Everything was more
Well,
organic.
because
Lex looked more menacing too.
because it's 100% character driven.
Yeah,
In the 2017 one, it not to say that it's not character driven. It's very interesting to have, Lex go around and start poaching people the same way Batman is, but
yeah,
it doesn't really progress what was already there. We know that Lex
yeah,
knows Batman is Bruce Wayne, so he would continue with that. And if you hear the story that they were planning for the Deathstroke Batman movie, Deathstroke was
yeah,
going to make Bruce's life a living hell because of
yeah.
something that happened in the last 20 years.
What I found out yesterday is Deathstroke's son dies and he blames
Yeah.
Bruce.
Yeah.
So then Lex Luthor tells him, "Hey, look, I need this guy out of my way. If you want to get to him, his name is Bruce Wayne. Like he's the one who killed your son, blah blah." So they were really going for and then they were going to do the Deathstroke origin film. Like, there's
Yeah.
at some point you just have to realize they're just fucking stupid. If you're not going to capitalize on any of this, it's money you're leaving. Who cares about, because there's a lot of people who've come around to this universe, because at first, man, a long time ago, I was one of those people who were like, I want my Batman a certain way, but over time, and I think that's what will be on Zach's side, is time. Over time, you're going to start to see more people accepting of this universe and of this world, because Justice League is your moneymaker. That's where you make your billions.
Yeah.
Infinity War, how do you not look at Infinity War Endgame and think, okay, how can we do 2 billion? You probably do what Zach was going to do.
Yeah.
Because this Justice League movie, I mean, it was 4 hours. Maybe you could have turned it into a 2-parter and incorporated Darkseid more.
There's something to the idea that there's a larger amount of acceptance this time around, with the idea of
100%.
People walking in going, "Oh, this is his director's cut. I know what to expect from this. I'm going to give it a chance."
Yeah.
I know that this is a Zack Snyder experience, and only Zack Snyder, because I know what happened to him. Even if you're not aware of what happened to him, I said in my review, this stuff has tainted pop culture since 2017.
Yeah.
I mean, it took was it the day of or a couple days after for the hashtag release the Snyder Cut to actually start after the theatrical release.
The dedication from the fans is something you'll never see again. I mean, you'll still see it for Restore This. You'll never see that.
When it comes to
that was insane.
The scale of, here's the thing.
Billboards
it's
and the plane and
it's so. I mean, it's obsessive, but it's obsessive for a cause,
for a good cause,
but not even just the cause of suicide prevention, for the cause of. I mean, that's obviously a fantastic part of it, but for the cause of this creative, absence, to be something's not right. It should not have gone this way.
Yeah.
If there was any fucking fairness or I don't know.
And I know people are gonna mention, hey, there's toxic fans everywhere. I mean, Star Wars fans have probably driven more actors off of social media than anyone on the Snyders or everyone has a toxic fandom, and I don't like to focus on that because I've seen some MCU fans that are absolutely horrible as well. So that's the reason we're saying it's so great is, we're saying it's so great is because there's no reason to acknowledge the toxicity. I see people all the time but they dude, shut the fuck up, man. I mean, $500,000 for suicide prevention.
Yeah.
Who cares about they're toxic, but they haven't.
And even if it comes down to the point of I genuinely think, I mean, there would be a portion of people who would be upset. I genuinely think even if the movie never ended up materializing, the idea of all this money was raised, all this noise was made, but there was, because my whole idea was like, legally we would never have gotten to see this movie.
No,
I 100% was
without
like,
HBO Max, this would have never happened.
I
Period.
100% was thinking like, it's locked up somewhere
Yeah,
in some vault, and we won't be able to see it. It'll be like the fucking Donner cut. I mean, we won't see it for
Yeah.
another fucking 20 years.
yeah.
At least.
That's what Zach was saying. He was like, maybe sometime down the line, I was gonna do it. Maybe. Hopefully,
Exactly.
but-
I was never crazy about it. When I was, I mean, you know this, I fucking tracked him down in 2018, in March of 2018. And today I actually put it on Instagram. Today was a year ago, 3 years exactly to the day
Really?
that I fucking met him.
That's
And
awesome.
when I saw him, and then I didn't want to bring up the fucking Snyder cut. I didn't want to ask him questions because back then he probably had an NDA. Who fucking knows?
Yeah.
He was silent about it. No one really spoke up about it, but the fans were constantly making noise. And then I met him, and I didn't want to fucking do that. I didn't want to be the guy that, because as much as, you know, there's a great, you know, sense of selflessness with the amount of money raised for suicide prevention, there are people who care. There are fans who care more about the movie than that.
Yes, 100%.
And it's a grotesque personality trait to be like. It was also his wife's birthday too, so I didn't want to be like, hey, I was lucky enough.
And you would have probably walked away with like, you know, I can't talk about that, but thank you, man. You know, like, that's
exactly.
You know,
so there was nothing more to say other than like huge fan. I think I said you have a lot of fans that believe in you, and then I left it at that because I feel like even mutually he can be like, I get what you mean.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Sometimes it's No, that probably meant a lot to him. You don't always have to say the most, man. It just depends on what you say, you know.
Dude, I went full fucking. I think that was the only time I ever went full stalker when it comes to like finding people in New York City. Because I remember a day before I was in class and he was in a. I was in class. I went to Pace University right next to City Hall.
Yeah.
In Lower Manhattan, and he was in a coffee shop right next to my class, but I couldn't leave.
Yeah.
So the next day I'm home, and he puts on Vero that he's going to see the boss for his wife's birthday. I'm like, the boss, where have I heard that nickname for something be used? And I remembered in the office, they called Bruce Springsteen the boss. And I was like,
yeah,
he's in New York. They're going to see the boss. Where is Bruce Springsteen performing? And I found a fucking theater in Lower Manhattan.
That's awesome.
And as I'm going closer to that, and it was snowing that day too. It was like an awful weather day.
Yeah.
As I'm getting closer and closer, I'm seeing him update on Vero. And I'm like, I was just there. I have to circle back. It was the weirdest. It's such a strange experience. And
I would have done the same thing for somebody I appreciate like that, man. I mean, and especially directors, you're not going to have a swarm of people really kind of, because, you know, directors are always the ones, you know, the actors that are on screen. But I wanted to ask you about, you know, we briefly touched on it, the scene with the Flash. I think that was top.
Oh my god!
So at least top 10 moments in comic book movies. Like I would at least
100%. Now, when I first watched it, I guess so. My initial thoughts weren't time travel.
Yeah, like what were you thinking? I want to know what your thought at that moment, because it was a weird visual, but it was great.
It was so. My initial thoughts, because the entire movie he's talking about the speed of light. So I'm thinking like, you know, they talk about, if you look through the Hubble telescope, you can see millions of light years out into our galaxy that happened millions of years ago, but we're seeing the start of it because of our distance in space in relative to the speed of light. I'm not a scientist. I'm making this shit up. But when it comes to you know, clicking a flashlight on and off at a wall, if you turn it on and you're the Flash and you're moving faster than the speed of light before the light ray hits the wall, time warps. You're further into the future or in the past at the wall before the light hits there. So when it comes to the Unity exploding, and eviscerating everything. If he runs faster than the explosion is exploding, he can get to the beginning of it.
Yeah.
That was my initial, like, he's moving faster than it is actually exploding. And by doing that, he's able to
complete it and kind of do the whole
and
thing.
it's such a when you think of time travel, you think of like hitting a button or you think of going through a portal, but there's something so great of having it being walked from point A to point B and watching from him each step, the floor materializing, but not even like he'd step into nothing and then the concrete would follow, and then he'd step into nothing and then the concrete would follow, and then all the way down to seeing the bones form and then the tendons and then
Superman's,
the skin and the suit, down to everybody, all the skeletons reforming, and then the muscles and then the skin and then the suits. It's such a,
even everything before that, when he vibrates first to stop it, like to not let the explosion even impact. He's not moving, he's vibrating, and then he's realizing, and then he says, and then he kind of just goes like, and he starts healing in super speed.
You have to go the speed of light faster than the speed of light.
You have to break the rules. When he says you have to break the rules, Barry, bro, I was like, dude, this is like the Flash from the animated movies, from the comics. He has a rule. It's established that you don't do this right now because you never know. And like you said, whether this was a Zack Snyder-y thing to do or whether that was what time travel is in Zack's world, seeing it rebuild behind him, he's not only moving, he's moving faster than it's rebuilding. So it was beautiful. It was beautiful to see it all come back and then everything. So it was like, I'm still confused on whether that's just Zack Snyder's visuals kind of being like, hey,
that's the thing. There's a big leap between what we see him do. He
clearly time travels. Like that's clearly the thing.
That's after I watched it a third time last night. That's when I was like, okay, I mean, I'm going to label my thoughts as time travel, but it's such a interesting visual representation because, well, I mean, you wouldn't get a visual representation that solid if it were a larger amount of time. Like when we see him, if we ever see him going back to BVS to warn Bruce, he's got the extra suit on. There's going to be portal.
I think that's more cosmic treadmill because when I read Zack's plans for the sequel in this universe is everyone dies. Spoiler alert, everyone dies, and then they send flashback with the treadmill. So that's probably, it seems like if he time travels normally, things will be moving as he's moving, or it's like, because he's moving in our eyes, he's moving like a normal jogging speed, but in reality, he's just, so it was like Zack slowed it down, but it wasn't slow-mo. It was just normal version of Flash.
But that's I don't that if it serves the story, I have no fucking problem with that. 100% tells the story perfectly. But yeah, my first thoughts were, I immediately thought of Interstellar, and I thought of being millions of light years in space. You're far enough when it comes to the time and the distance that, someone will be aging 7 years for every day of your life, like that. So when it comes to Barry moving through that distance, he is going backwards through time. Which is such a fucking cool way to do it. To put it to plan it on a plane and have the point A be Barry and the point B be the explosion. Because they come across each other.
It sets up his solo movie, like what they wanted to do with Flashpoint even more, because this is presumably his first time breaking the rules, because he said, you got to break the rule, Barry. I mean, he probably never tried it before. So this would set up Flashpoint to an unbelievably amazing degree, because wait a minute, you could have this moment in his film where he's like, I kind of went back in time and what if I can go further? Can I save my mom? Like, it sets it up beautifully. And now it's like, like they can, to me, Ray Fisher getting screwed over was a given, but I was amazed to see how much more of Flash was put in there that made me take him more seriously. There's times where he's bouncing ideas off, people, and he's taking part in the conversation.
That's a whole other aspect to this movie, is that I mean, the teamwork, but like the dialogue between everybody.
Him and Aquaman, when they have
yeah,
that on, he's like, I never said I didn't care, you
yeah.
know, and he's
Or
like,
that shot where they're all talking around the mother box and it's just pivoting around them, all of them, and they're each adding to us to the same thought. It's such a
yeah.
great group dynamic that is built from characters that, I mean, besides Aquaman, we really didn't know much of. Besides Aquaman and
Yeah.
Batman and Wonder Woman.
And they're it's like a ragtag group of people. Like they each really do have different motivations. They have different ways of behaving, you know. And so and you know what was really cool? It's a sneaky little thing. It was cool to see Wonder Woman have more of, she's like she seemed more involved and more cooperative in everything like Bruce was doing. I know she kind of didn't want to for a second, but in Whedon's cut, I felt like she just wasn't really, you know, she wasn't down for that.
She's pivoted specifically in an antagonistic light.
Yeah, like she's kind of like pushing Bruce, and then this one they had that little moment with the I ship Bruce, and you know, like I think that'd be like a pretty good relationship.
That's like such a like a consistent thing for these characters too.
Yeah, but no, like what you said, when they're going around the table, and another thing we didn't mention is the use of Hans Zimmer's Man of Steel score. Just elevates every scene
instantly. It's
instantly.
like a dog. My ears perk up, and I can instantly catch on to it.
And it's phenomenal that a director like Zach could be so controversial, yet be behind a movie that in Man of Steel that has a lot of what people think are controversial decisions, but has a piece of score. And I know it's Hans' work, but the fact that that score can resonate like to the point where when they're showing the hologram and it's and he's flying up, like it, there's only certain scores, like it's in the upper echelon of scores that just, even when he's at the farm and he's like, she loved it here, you know, I loved it here, and little piano, it elevates everything. It's everything.
All got such a feeling, and especially, I mean, maybe to the more like casual viewer, it's not as big a deal, but to fans that have like been anticipating all this stuff, it's fucking worth it. It
was refreshing, because when Elfman, I've always liked Elfman. Once he said that prick comment of there's only one Batman and Superman, I was like, dude, you know, I mean, you're disrespecting people's work even more. Because there's a composer better than you, and Hans Zimmer, who did a great Batman score and great Superman score. So but yeah, I mean, dialogue with Flash, the like everything in this, there wasn't a single part other than those extra long scenes that we agree could be cut down. Everything that was in this movie, there wasn't anything in the Whedon cut I liked, like compared to this. Because, you know, to be fair, you want to make those comparisons, like, hey, did Whedon do anything that? No, absolutely. Even like less ass shots of Gal Gadot, first of all, which are just like, it's sad to see him stoop to that level and realize that, you know what, people are right about this creep.
It pads the runtime they needed, and you know what?
Yeah,
that's the kind of fucking dude he is.
Everything and the most minor details in this movie made it like Cyborg. They Zach said there was like this certain amount of effects when Cyborg flies in and meets Wonder Woman, and rather than coming out of the corner with a hoodie on, like the amount of effects of him just flying in like that, they wanted to just do this right. And like I said, you know, minor dialogue changes with Barry, to me, is one of the most noticeable changes, because I took, you know, whether I like his Barry Allen or not, that's irrelevant. I took him more seriously. I felt like he fought. He didn't just push people and run away. That moment when when the rubble's falling on him, and
such
he's
a
like,
cool fucking like representation. Such a cool visual.
It was cohesive with Suicide Squad, where he shows up to the bank robbery like he's an expert in this, and to see him actually be somebody who's capable. I mean, it was Barry's usually the one that A, fucks shit up, or B, solves everything. And in this movie, he's the one who saved the day. I mean, without Barry, they're gone. That's it.
How about the fact that they lost?
They lost.
Which is such, and they lost in a fucking tough way. in a
And
really
that's what
brutal way.
a really horrible way, and that's what I like about Justice League, and it could sometimes be considered like, but to me, it's what gives Barry that level of importance, and each Justice League member is as important as the other, and I think
Yeah.
that's, to me, Aquaman saving them, because they would have probably drowned. Aquaman saved them. Wonder Woman, redeeming herself in the Amazonians, Superman coming in and saving them, Batman bringing the team together, Cyborg doing what he did. Every Justice League member had a purpose and a reason to be there. And I think Zach showed that beautifully compared to Whedon's cut, where some of the, like, Flash had literally no point of even being in the Whedon cut at all.
Yeah. All right. I have here everything we see when they're activating the mother box to bring back everything that Cyborg sees when they're activating the mother box to bring back Superman. Oh yeah, by the way, just a quick circle, and then we're gonna get back to this. When it comes to another perfect example is when the mother box is dropping, and then Barry gets there, and then it reverses. It's because
he was late. Yeah,
he was late at first, and then he catches up past the speed of whatever the fuck, and then
he went back in time slightly. Like, my god,
he moves faster than time is happening.
Yes,
because time only goes forward.
What's interesting about that is, to us, there's like two ways of looking at it. Either that was what happened, and then he went so fast after jumping that it reversed time, or what we saw was different than what he was experiencing. So what we were watching was this, and what he went through is such a beautifully crafted way. Yeah.
The way I saw it was he's experiencing it. He's not seeing stuff reverse. It's just not happening for him.
It's not happening for him yet. For us, it went
visually. The only way for us to see how fast he is to see something happen, and then it's only happening for our fucking eyes. But he's so fast that it's not even. But yeah, all right.
But what they saw, Darkseid. Wow.
I have here the mother boxes are activated. The Unity, when they're bringing back Superman, the Unity happens is one. The Darkseid sits on his throne, which is presumably either on Apokolips or Earth. We're assuming that this is in a world where he destroys Earth. Diana's funeral. She's got it's a traditional thing. She's got the Greek coins. The coins on the eyes. Darkseid killing Aquaman, which was was
a hard one to kind of like. You had to see.
I couldn't tell at first that it was. I thought it was just an Atlantean, but then you see.
But he kills him. Doesn't he kill him with the trident?
Yeah, he kills him with his own trident. Yeah, and then he gets and then you see the Omega beams go off.
The Omega with and he's underwater, so they're kind of floating up. With
that's such a perfect fucking visual, man. It's so good. And then we have Superman holding Lois's body, succumbing to the anti-life equation.
I love that, and I get it. It was a reused. He wasn't really there, but the fact that Zach went to those lengths and pulled it off to make it look half decent with probably not much of his budget left. No, what it looked like to me, and someone's. Because it's not the Man of Steel crying scene. It looks like maybe it was an alternate take he used. Yeah. Because it wasn't the exact same expression.
No. It's not. He's not. He doesn't look as flushed. He doesn't
have that vein popping out.
And then it leads to the Nightmare reality where we see a dead Green Lantern, which I didn't know was Kilowog. It doesn't look like Kilowog to me.
I didn't even know he was there until someone pointed it out. Because I'm looking at Superman. I'm looking at Superman with the cowl, which is a great carryover from BVS, because that means he's just. And there's this one thing I wanted to discuss with you, because Joker gives him the card and says, as long as we have this a truce, as long. Now, if you notice, the card is ripped in the nightmare scene in BVS. Yeah. So presumably, the nightmare scene in the end of this film takes place before the nightmare scene in BVS. Oh, yeah. So I'm assuming, because he says, I have a rule.
Well, the nightmare scene in BVS we see also is the card is taped to his fucking gun. He's got it there, and presumably, they've got that. It's still going on, and then, but which one is it where you see the card flies right in front of the screen during while burning embers?
I think that was in that was the BVS one, right? Yeah, that was the BVS one, and then they also do it, I think, in this one slightly, but it was kind of like a prequel, if in a way, or it was pre BVS, and it shows kind of, oh man, the sequel's supposed to be in that world. I love that.
Dude.
Honestly, yeah, canon's great, but I love like just
Yeah.
what happened if
Yeah.
this dude, it's like Endgame but better, because it's like the apocalypse, he's there. Thanos
Yeah.
is not there. He's not, it's just the end of the world 5 years later. Like, he's there, dude. Apocalypse,
Mhm.
you know, Darkseid's there. You're now living on Apocalypse Earth,
Yeah.
and
Pretty
you're
much.
teaming with the Joker. You're teaming with, who would say no to that?
Mhm.
Well, I get it. You
God, what
want,
a
like,
good
you know,
fucking
like,
movie.
what a good movie. And it's to me, it's what we're seeing with critics is it's coherent enough
Yeah.
to like actually survive on its
Yeah.
own. Like,
Yeah.
nerd wise, this movie, like, I gave it a 9 out of 10 because I had to include that nerd side of me. I usually
Yeah.
don't like to, but I saw too many moments in this film
Oh yeah.
that just, and they didn't feel particularly like fan service. That
No.
Barry Allen Flash scene felt like our first time experiencing a true phenomenally looking Flash moment. Sorry, CW fans, but that was
No,
like,
see,
that
but
was
no,
it.
there's nothing really to be sorry about. There's a cinematic moment and there's a television moment.
Yeah,
It's that
yeah.
simple, you know?
And
Uh, yeah.
Darkseid, just everything with Dark, and then like when he is talking to Desaad and Desaad's praying, and then Darkseid comes through like this molten lava,
Mhm.
and every one of the parademons bows. This is what we've read Final Crisis, all these stories. This is what we want.
Yeah.
And like with Whedon's cut, it just seems like they removed every mention of Darkseid except that one time where he says for Darkseid, but then he has this whole, it's for mother. Like, you know.
I don't know. That you know what that is that's someone lazily being like, I don't understand. What is do the mother boxes belong to a mom? That's what someone is thinking in that
Yeah,
moment.
yeah.
And they're like,
And
well,
what's good? Go ahead.
well, that's what they're like. How can we create a character for this guy? We'll have there be some like cosmic obsession through the mother boxes, which is
Yeah,
like, that's not a character. That's a trope. That's like
yeah.
the most basic flat character possible.
There's one thing we haven't talked about is the history lesson. This was
Yes.
probably the biggest difference of the film. And when he cuts off the lantern's hand
Mhm.
and the ring comes off and he goes to grab it to try to get it, and then he
Yeah.
gets hit with Artemis, like, wow.
Yeah.
And Zach said his plan for his movies was to kind of mirror that. In the third film, it would have basically been the history lesson, but with our current heroes.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman leading the Amazonians, you know, or
Mhm.
the Amazons.
Yeah.
Aquaman leading the Atlanteans. Superman would have been leading men,
Mhm.
and the Lantern, you know, would have been.
Yeah.
It would have been his third film. That it would have reversed back to like a callback to that,
Yeah.
of them all taking on Darkseid. And just, oh yeah, what did you think about them? It looked like they CGI'd the actor's face on Ares from Wonder Woman.
Oh
If you
yeah,
caught
yeah,
that,
Brandon
if you
Fulis.
caught
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
it like, it looked like
I
this.
loved it. I loved it.
I loved it.
It's clearly like
It's
not
clearly like
normal,
not,
but
yeah.
I liked it because it's a nice nod. Like, he's
Continuity, man.
not gonna change physically that much.
No.
I mean, if he's supposed to be a Greek god, it's what other than like the fashion, he's not gonna change. He just looks like a younger, fitter man.
Yeah, I thought that was great, and I think that's great too, because it shows that, yeah, while Darkseid is powerful, these were the heroes then. You know,
Yeah.
Ares is like all these heroes, like
And
Zeus
thinking
is,
about
I
the
guess,
fact that he was that's him at like 16, Darkseid. That's him as a
like a
fucking
baby.
child. That's ridiculous. And then now
Yeah.
then the standoff at the end between them both looking back at each other through the boom tube.
Dude, I was giddy. I was
Chills.
kicking my feet, bro. I was kicking my feet. I was like, oh, like I was acting like a
It's
10-year-old,
so good.
man.
What a
It was,
good fucking movie.
and like Superman looking back and just locking eyes
Yeah.
with him, and what's even better is you fucking kill his uncle right in front of him and send his headless body and his head through the portal. And Darkseid, what does he do? He doesn't give a fuck. He just steps on it. And that, to think that this guy doesn't understand the characters, you could think whatever you want, but don't tell me he does not deliver.
There's so much. It's funny to say that the follow-up to this has more loaded behind it than this had after
Oh
three
yeah.
after 3 years and such a botched initial cut that it's like now it's like you think that it can just end here? We need
No, it's going to be worse now
yeah
because now we've seen
yeah.
that moment
As
alone
long as there's
with,
a hashtag,
dude, I admittedly wasn't very like involved, I this is my first donation with the hat and stuff
Mhm.
and the merch, but I wasn't involved. Now I'm gonna do my, I'm not gonna be obsessed and post on like posts that aren't related, but I'm gonna do my best to like use these hashtags and try to promote this because
You
it's
gotta
something that needs to
make
be
sure
seen.
to send me that link because I
Yeah,
didn't
I
even
will
know that
send
that
you
was
that.
a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, because they have some good beanies
Yeah.
on there and the hat, but unfortunately most of the shirts are taken. But
Yeah.
even on the DC store, I think they have some stuff on there that's pretty cool. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna be pushing as hard as I can for more films because look, I'm still excited for the future of DC. Suicide Squad with James Gunn. I'm a fan
Mhm.
of Gunn's work. I think that's gonna be fun. Black Adam. I grew up liking The Rock.
Yeah.
So maybe if they do a Supergirl, like the Black Superman, whether it's gonna be Val Zod or somebody
Mhm.
else, we don't really know. But the Batman, Matt Reeves.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I'm still gonna be bitter, man. Every time I see one of these movies, I'm gonna be a little bitter. Like, shit, I kind of wish it was.
Yeah.
There's minor things you can do to make it canon. It can happen. Retcons. I mean, look at DC Comics. They
Yeah.
retcon every 10 years. So I but
Is there
yeah,
anything that we kind of missed
that's what
or
I'm
anything
trying to
else you want
think.
to talk about?
I'm trying to think of.
I went through
I
pretty
mean,
much
I
all my
guess
notes.
Superman, I guess, was I loved seeing the black suit. I one thing that I will say is a nitpick is they don't explain the suit.
Mhm.
Zach, I gave an interview
He
that
gave
just
a whole
came
thing of
out,
like yeah, a whole
the
the
recharge and
yeah.
so like I get it. That's where people have a complaint where like you have to read the comics because I knew, but I think it would have been cool to kind of maybe throw something in there to kind of explain, like to maybe visually show him soaking up. But maybe
Yeah.
that's the limitation without having Henry for reshoots. He had to reuse
Yeah.
footage.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it was. I don't think he was trying to ignore it. I think he literally couldn't do it. But what was it like for you seeing? Because we've seen it in the trailers, but seeing it in the movie, what was it like for you to see that classic black suit with the silver logo, man?
Um, I mean, it was obviously fucking cool. I think that the look isn't just the black suit though. I think that
Yeah,
I would have fucking killed for a beard and a mullet. I don't care if people
yeah.
don't like the fucking mullet. He has a mullet. Your hair grows. He's been dead for what? They say it's a year since
Like
BVS or whatever the
I
fuck
think
they
I think it was 6 months.
whatever the time, like there's a time difference. Your hair grows when you're dead, and it would have
Yeah.
been cool to see a fucking a beard and long hair to accompany the
He said he wanted to do it, but Warner
yeah,
Brothers kept saying
yeah, you
no.
know how
So
it
it's
is.
just
Like that's
it's
how
so
that's
ridiculous.
the case with most of it. But I this was a productive talk.
This was, dude, because
Talk
like
about a lot of
I
shit.
totally I relate to what you're saying because when you messaged me, I laughed because I'm like, I bet he's just looking for someone that likes
Yeah,
the movie because a lot of people
I
are
needed to talk.
saying some
There's
dumb
just
shit.
so much to talk about, and
There's so much.
I'm gonna yeah. I mean, I'm gonna do some Instagram lives this week and talk some more. But all right, where can people where can people find you if they want to follow you?
They can find me on Instagram, the Nerdy Hub. If you use Twitter, I've been using that a lot. It's Batmaniac 92, so Batman IAC 92, a kind of little wordplay there. But yeah, that's where you can find me. I talk a lot about pretty much everything on my Twitter and my Instagram. I post everything on there, so that's where you
Cool.
guys can find me.
All
But
right,
I
and
appreciate you. Like I appreciate you having me on.
oh hell
It
yeah,
was great. I've
man.
been wanting to do this for so long, so it was really cool for you to
Yeah,
invite me on here.
awesome. I'm glad we're definitely gonna do it a couple more times.
I'm so down.
Yeah.
Definitely, man.
You can follow me on Instagram at Comedian of Cinema. I'm very close. I'm like a couple hundred away from hitting 50K, and when I hit 50K, I'm doing giveaway for
Oh,
the
that's dope.
WandaVision Funko Pops, the comic accurate Halloween suit Funko Pops. So
Are you gonna do like a bundle, or are you gonna do them separate?
oh no, the bundle. Who wants just the vision one? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
And you can follow the podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcast. How is it going to end? Or you can subscribe to my YouTube channel where I post the podcast as well, at Comedian of Cinema. And that's pretty much it.